A pickup truck stopped in the middle of nowhere, no houses, no gas station, nothing but dense southern woodland swallowing the road in every direction. And 7 3-year-old. Mary May Sullivan gripped the door handle so hard her knuckles ached as her oldest son Charles Edwards killed the engine, and said without looking at her, "I gotta check something up the road." The March sun baked the red dirt shoulder like a skillet. May had white hair twisted into a low bun, hands rough from a lifetime of farm work, and a tiny wooden rosary she kept tucked inside her worn purse like a lifeline. She'd lived her whole life outside a small town near Jacksonville, Florida, quiet roads, chirp on Sundays, neighbors who waved even when they didn't like you, so when Charles showed up that morning saying they needed to handle property paperwork up near Macon, Georgia, she believed him because he was her. Firstborn the baby she rocked through fevers. The boy she taught to read by lamplight. The kid she defended when his father wanted him in the fields instead of in school. But as the highway turned to gravel, then to a rutted service road, then to a narrow strip of dirt choked by pines and vines, May felt a pressure in her chest that didn't feel like age. It felt like warning. "Charles, this isn't the way to Macon." He tightened his grip on the wheel jaw, clenched eyes hard and red in a way that wasn't sadness, it was resentment that had been fermenting for years. "We'll handle it, Mom. Just be quiet." That tone snapped her back into the old fear. She knew too well the same tone her late husband used right before rage hit the room like lightning. 20 minutes deeper, the truck slowed and stopped at a sharp bend where the woods stood thick on both sides. No cell signal bars. No mailboxes. No distant porch lights. Just birds, wind, and the hush of isolation. Charles finally turned to her, and his stare didn't look like her son's, it looked like a stranger's. "Get out!" May blinked. What he slammed his fist into the dash so hard the sound cracked the air inside the cab. "Get out of the truck!" Her body moved before her mind could catch up. She opened the door and stepped onto the dirt legs, wobbling. Charles went to the bed, yanked out her old blue travel bag, and tossed it at her feet. May's voice shook. "Baby, what are you doing?" He stood in front of her, taller, stronger, colder than she ever remembered, then said the words that made her world tilt. "You're staying here." Her stomach dropped. You can't be serious. I'm your mother." Charles's mouth twisted like he'd been waiting years to say this. "There's no place for you at my house anymore. Leanne's done. The kids are done. I'm done. You're sick, you're old, you're needy, and you're a burden." Each sentence landed like a knife. May swallowed her tears because she refused to give him the satisfaction, at least not yet. "I do what I can," she whispered. "I cook, I clean." "You complain," he snapped. "You hurt, you want pills, you want attention, you drain us. I work all day and you just take." May's voice cracked. "I gave you my life." Charles's eyes didn't soften. "And I got what I needed. Now it's over." He climbed into the driver's seat, started the engine, and May lunged to the window, palms against the glass. "Charles, please don't do this, have a heart." He looked at her one last time, and there was no guilt there, only ice. "Figure it out, Mom. You always do." Then he hit the gas, and the truck vanished around the bend, leaving her in a cloud of dust and betrayal, so thick it felt like she couldn't breathe. May stood frozen until the engine noise disappeared, then her legs gave out and she dropped to her knees in the dirt, sobbing so hard her ribs hurt until she forced herself to stop because crying wouldn't bring him back and it wouldn't keep her alive. She checked her bag, one change of clothes, an old faded sweater, a cracked comb, her rosary, no water, no food, no cash. He planned it. This wasn't a temper tantrum, this was a decision. The sun was high heat pressing down like punishment. May hoisted the bag onto her shoulders and started walking back the way they came, praying she'd find a farmhouse, a passing driver, anything. Hours passed with nothing but red dust, pine shadows, and the ache in her hips that grew sharper with each step. She rested under a tree, pulled out the rosary, and whispered Hail Marys with a trembling mouth because prayer was the only company she had left. By late afternoon, she reached a fork, one path straight, one deeper into the woods, and fear tightened her throat. Then she heard leaves rustle fast close, and she turned, expecting a wild animal. Instead, a big brown and white mutt stepped out, ribs showing fur, dirty eyes gentle. The dog stared at her, then wagged its tail like it had decided she belonged to it. May's lips parted in the first almost smile since the abandonment. "Hey there, sweetheart. You lost too." The dog inched closer, sniffed her hand, and let her pet its head. "All right," she whispered, voice breaking in gratitude. "Come with me. We'll survive together." Night fell fast, and the woods turned from green to black, cold, creeping in under her sweater. May moved off the road into the brush to hide, found a fallen tree making a crude shelter, and curled up with her bag as a pillow, while the dog, she named him Thunder, for his low, rumbling bark, pressed against her side for warmth. She slept in fragments, haunted by dreams of her late husband calling her name, her children running through fields, her old home turning dark and empty. She woke to thunder, growling, and a smell that didn't belong smoke. A flicker of orange light pulsed between the trees. May's heart hammered. Fire meant people, and people could mean rescue or worse. She crept closer until she saw a small clearing, 3 young men around a campfire, filthy clothes, burlap sacks piled nearby, one holding a rifle. May started to back away, but thunder barked loud, innocent damning. "Who's there?" a voice shouted. "Come out or I'll shoot." May stepped out with hands raised, thunder at her legs, still growling. The man with the rifle aimed at her. "What the—" An old lady. May's voice shook, but she forced it steady. "I'm lost. I need help." They traded looks. One of them laughed low and mean until May said, "My son left me on the road. Drove off. He abandoned me." The laughter died into something like disbelief. The shortest one stepped forward. "That's cold." The rifleman, a scar cutting through his eyebrow, narrowed his eyes. "You saw us here, Grandma. That's a problem." May swallowed hard. "I didn't see anything. I won't say anything. I just want to live." The scarred man studied her, then finally lowered the gun a few inches. Not kindness, just calculation. "Sit by the fire. Try anything, and I'll feed you to the woods." May sat as far from them as she could. The talkative one, Nick, tossed her a warm plastic bottle of water. "Drink! You look like you're about to drop." May drank like it was heaven, tears stinging her eyes from relief. Nick threw Thunder a strip of jerky, and the dog devoured it. They admitted they couldn't take her into town, too risky for them, but at dawn they'd point her to a bigger road where someone might stop. May slept near that fire, terrified and grateful at the same time, because in that twisted night, the most dangerous-looking strangers had shown more humanity than the sun she raised. At sunrise, they led her down a narrow trail to a wider dirt road and pointed right. "About 3 miles to the state highway," Nick said. "More traffic there. Someone'll stop." May thanked them like they'd saved her soul because they had, then she walked those 3 miles like each step was a war. When she finally reached the highway, she collapsed onto a rock on the shoulder, feet blistered and swollen, Thunder panting in the shade beside her. Cars flew past without slowing. A sedan with tinted windows, a motorcycle, another truck that didn't even tap the brakes. May waved until her arm burned, whispering, "God, please, send one good person." And then at last, an old white work van with faded construction lettering slowed and pulled over. A stocky man in a red baseball cap climbed out, face softening as he took in the state she was in. "Ma'am, are you okay?" "What happened?" May tried to speak, but emotion strangled her voice. I need help." When she told him her son abandoned her, the man's expression hardened into outrage. "That's evil. That's straight-up elder abandonment." He introduced himself as Ray, said he was headed toward Macon anyway, and offered her a ride, only the dog had to ride in the back. May agreed instantly. Ray bought her cold water at a gas station, then told her, "You need to file a police report. Adult Protective Services. Restraining order. This is a crime." By the time they reached town, May didn't feel rescued. She felt cracked open, staring at normal life like she didn't belong in it anymore. Ray dropped her at a downtown square where she could make calls, pressed a wrinkled $20 bill into her palm for food and for the dog, and drove away before she could properly thank him. May bought a sandwich and water, shared it with Thunder, then called her daughter Valerie, shaking as the phone rang. Valerie answered, annoyed. "Mom, I'm at work." "What is it?" May said. The words that should have ended everything. "Your brother left me in the woods. He abandoned me." Silence, then Valerie's voice turned sharp. "That's not true. Charles called last night saying you wandered off, that you're confused, that he searched everywhere." May's blood ran cold. He'd built his lie in advance. May begged her to believe her, swore she was lucid, described the dirt road, the night, the fear, the strangers, the dog, but Valerie cut her off. "You're getting paranoid. You need help. Go back to Charles's." Then she hung up, leaving May staring at a dead line that felt like a funeral bell. May stumbled back to the bench, sobbing into Thunder's scruffy fur, and for the first time she understood the cruel genius of what her son had done. If she spoke up, he'd paint her as senile, and people would nod along because it was easier than confronting the truth. That's when a woman in blue medical scrubs approached and asked gently, "Ma'am, are you okay?" Her name was Jessica, a nurse at a nearby clinic, and when May told her what happened, Jessica's face filled with real anger. The kind that means you're finally safe with someone who believes you. "We're going to the clinic," she said. "Our social worker knows exactly what to do." Jessica walked May there herself, Thunder at their heels, and the social worker Celia took notes, explained the steps, police report, protective order, legal aid, emergency housing, but warned, shelters are full. It may take time. May's stomach sank until Jessica blurted, "She can stay with me." Celia stared. "Jessica, are you sure?" Jessica didn't blink. "My grandma went through something like this. I'm not letting her sleep on the street." May broke down, hugging a stranger who felt more like family than her own children did. They filed the report at the police station where the officer admitted, "Without witnesses, it's hard, but we'll open an investigation." That night, May showered in Jessica's tiny apartment, ate rice and beans and eggs like it was a feast, and fell asleep on the couch with Thunder curled beside her, safe, still heartbroken, still betrayed but alive. If this story is hitting you in the chest, subscribe, hit like, and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from, because what happens next will restore your faith in people and prove that the truth can still win.